The great exodus, as told to me by the storyteller one night as I slept. I had been asleep for 2 hours dreaming, when I heard the storyteller talking to me once again, in a non-stop monotone voice in my head. It doesn't pause to breathe. I lay there listening intently as the images flowed into my mind. She reminded me of the dream I had before, about a life I was living on Earth before, when it had moved violently on its axis, causing great turmoil throughout the world. Lands were sinking beneath the sea's volcanic eruptions, and fissures brought molten lava and fire from beneath. Some of the seas were boiling. In other areas, the cold came as strongly as the polar climates. We had to leave our homes in a hurry. We didn't have time to gather all of our family together. It was a matter of flee or die. We used anything that could float as the waters surged over the land, which was breaking apart. I watched a peninsula which my wife and daughter were on, break away from the mainland, parting us in the turmoil. Those of us who managed to board some kind of vessel headed out into the sea, away from the chaos of collapsing land. We gathered in groups and tied the small vessels together, making bigger, safer ones. As we traveled, we found others. Eventually, we reached an area of relative peace, where there were larger vessels there which we transferred to. Then we continued on our journey, looking for a safe haven. We traveled through areas that were too hot, cold, or violent to stay in. Eventually, we found some land that was calm enough for us to land on. We camped there, but it soon became obvious it was too hot for us as a permanent settlement area. We sent some out further, and they found another relatively peaceful area, but it was too wet. We eventually settled in an area between the two. Some people had brought seeds which we planted. Some experimented with any plants we found that had survived. Some were edible, but some were poisonous. One couple died horribly after eating some berries. The first died within minutes of eating them, violently vomiting and in pain. The other was not affected for 2 hours, then succumbed to the same fate. Another time we discovered a spicy root, which when added to dishes in small amounts improved the taste. However, use a little too much, and it numbs your mouth and causes hallucinations. So most of us stopped using it. We lived in that place for a few years, only losing a few people. We called it Eden. Not because it was a paradise, but to us at least it was a garden we could survive in. However, in the 3rd year, a drought came and many died of hunger. After that experience, we learned to put aside as many preserved and dried foods as possible in preparation for the droughts that would periodically come. We were always sending expedition parties out looking for a better place to settle. However, they all failed. Meanwhile, the survivors started to breed. In time, the population grew. We were forced to send some away looking for a new place to live, as the area we had settled could only support a certain number of us. We never saw those who left again, but much later, some of their descendants returned and met ours. Only when they shared stories did they realize they had originated from the same group of survivors. Both groups continued to send out some of their people when the population got too large for the settlements. This is how we and other small groups of survivors had repopulated some of the world. Whenever a group of seekers would find a settlement, some would stay while some of the settlement people left with the others. We did this knowing we needed to diversify the gene pools as much as possible. We established trade routes and communications, sharing our skills, discoveries, knowledge, and genes. Most eventually had no memories of the great disaster as they were born in the new world. All of those who had gone through the great ordeal had passed away, leaving only stories and relics generations later. Some would doubt the truth of the stories, though some always knew they were true. The storyteller was telling me this would happen again. In the near future, the earth would once again stir and create great turmoil. She said we should prepare as best we could, at least collecting and saving seeds such as corn, tomatoes, melons, grain, and tree seeds, especially those we were used to, and which we knew how to propagate. getting a boat, tools, and anything which would be useful and usable: flint, stone for fire, making ropes, tarps, axes, saws, digging implements, bows and arrows. She said many will not survive the upheavals, and many more will perish afterwards for lack of things they need. She said there are always some who survive to begin again, and it is best to be as prepared as possible. There will be different seasons and challenges, as there always are. I asked her why this world existed, and why spirits came to live short lives here. Why did we live these lives only to die? Her answer was that being exists for the reason of being, that endless worlds exist for the spirit to experience in its eternal life. The infinite creations exist in the breath. Worlds are created and destroyed on the expiration and inhalation. In the stillness between those is found the peace. We should always try to center ourselves in the space between breaths, in the eye of the cyclone, while lives and worlds whirl about in the breath or winds. Learn to be in the world, but not of it. I could not sleep after this long and interesting discourse, so I rose from my bed to eat and watch an old movie which brought images of the time before my birth and of my parents' lives and my childhood to me. What a different world this was, only a few decades ago, yet what a different person I was then. Yet always there was, and is the eternal me in the center of it all which I perceive. I have now become less attached to life in preparation for what is to come in the future. To close, I was told that all adversities that befall me are to teach me to relax and not get upset. Learn to let it all wash over you like waves. Don't let things upset or disturb you. Just let it be and let it pass. For the world is close to turning again. It is out of balance and full of stress. Everything is malfunctioning. See this not as a curse, but as a blessing. For out of the destruction of one comes the birth of another.